I'd like to bring up one of our wonderful customers. I'd like to bring up Eamonn Matthews and Ann Oberg from Coca-Cola. And they have a journey with shared services that I think is very interesting. Eamonn? Ann, thank you. Okay, questions?
Have your questions, that's good.
I do have my questions.
I didn't bring my answers.
Oh, well, good. Then I'll be the only one reading these then, won't I? So best practices. You've got a huge organization, right? We're in your hometown headquarters of Atlanta. And I think it was a wonderful time. Can we give them a hand for Coca-Cola World last night? That was really fun. It was pretty awesome.
Good.
So how do you define best practices across an organization the size of Coca-Cola?
Well, actually, that's a very interesting question because we are trying to define and adapt best practices. So obviously, attending sessions like this and other forums is key. But we haven't gotten it quite right yet. It's definitely a journey. We've done transformation, a big one back 2008 to 10, and we're starting another one. We have historically been regionally focused and everything done in silos, even though we had hubs. But we have offices in 49 countries just for shared services. So some of those are one-man shops. So what we did recently is we decided we needed a focus on process leadership. And so just within the last couple of months, so this is hot off the press, I created an organization that actually took process out of the geographical centers. And we have a team that solely that's what they do. Every day they wake up thinking about process. Eamonn is one of them.
Yeah. So the example I have, Therese, in terms of best practice, and it is a journey that we've started recently, but our partnership with BlackLine over the last 18 months is definitely something that resonates with me. So we decided that we weren't a software developer. It took us a long time to actually come up with that conclusion.
Our IT partners, maybe they think differently.
We reached out to our vendors. We looked for best in class in terms of end-to-end processes and who we could partner with, and we partnered with BlackLine. We empowered a business process lead to drive the overall project and drive the overall process rather than having the regional approach. And then very much, we talk to the clients here. And as you said, collaborating with people here, and some of the guys are in the room. I know Tammy from Cox and Bob Abercrombie from Thomson Reuters. I had to thank Bob because I tortured him for at least 3 conferences. So collaborating with other customers was key for us. So while we're only starting the journey, we have done something with our partnership with BlackLine that we're going to continue into other areas in finance.
Okay, excellent. And, again, making that point, talk to the people around you. Be friendly. Sometimes when it was 20 people in a room, we had to talk to each other. Okay. Now that it's 800 people in a room, it might be a little overwhelming, but, turn to the person next to you and meet your neighbor and find out what they're doing and, ask questions because that's the most important part of this conference. So collaboration, good. So efficiency gains, have you gotten any along the way?
Well, in our journey, we certainly have. We have a long way to go, though, but our process leadership, basically, our approach is all about simplifying, standardizing, scaling. And even if we choose to do things regionally, at least we can all do it in a standard format.
That's
okay?
helpful.
Yep. And some of the examples that come to mind for me with efficiency, definitely around productivity. I don't want to give too much away because I'm presenting later on.
Yeah.
Some people mightn't come back. So, from a balance sheet reconciliation point of view, we had 800 people involved. We're down to 300 people.
I hope you're not buying per seat. Dang. If they're 500 less, that's not good for us.
But it was the caliber of people in terms of taking it into shared services and away from some of the business. The other thing we done is we created a team in Manila and we moved 40% of our global reconciliations to that team in Manila. Which was a massive, massive improvement for us.
That's a really interesting topic because a lot of companies struggle with offshore shared services.
Yep.
And how to make that, how did you approach that from a training perspective, how did you actually make that work? Because there's time zone differences, there's cultural differences, there's language differences, there's accounting, just a familiarity with the different sets of accounts. How did you make that a successful transition?
I think if you, and they are all absolute challenges that you need to deal with, but I think first and foremost you need to look at the process. You look at the overall end-to-end process. The 40% of reconciliations we moved were low complexity, very low complexity. Those areas of the balance sheet that we felt were very much in control. So it was a pretty easy transition to move them actually to there. I think if you get bogged down in the culture and the time zones and everything else, you're actually going to limit yourself.
Okay.
Whereas if you just focus on the overall end-to-end process and have an in-depth knowledge of the process, the opportunities are endless.
Do you still have the business owners involved in terms of approving at a higher level?
No. We very much moved all of the approval into the shared services operation.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, all right.
Which is how we were able to take some people out. Yeah.
Yep, no, that makes a lot of sense. And you think shared services is the way of the future?
It most definitely is.
It is.
Shared services, be it global approach or even regional, makes total sense for any company of any size. I think our focus right now on process is what's allowing us to set up these COEs. And again, we're just getting started, but we want to move more work to a low cost or cost advantageous, as we say, locations like a Manila, like Buenos Aires. We'll be able to follow the sun. We'll be able to have multiple shifts. Philippines is definitely going to that. We've met with a lot of companies from there. So you standardize, you can scale, and it just really, really makes sense.
How many people here utilize shared services now?
Yes.
Wow, a good percentage. How many of you have challenges with it? Okay, also a good percentage. So
Yeah.
again, it's about the journey
It is.
as opposed to one and done, right?
Oh, definitely.
So what's next with BlackLine? I'm assuming we're going to be partners for a long time to come.
We hope so.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
where do you want to go next? So I understand that you have a deadline. You have a 3-year timeline. That
Well,
you,
he may have said 3 years, but it's moved to 2. Destination
2?
2017.
Okay.
Yes.
So
we lost 12 months in the
Yes,
past 2 weeks.
somehow.
Uh-oh. Oh, that's how it works sometimes.
Yeah.
So what's on the horizon for next steps, and what are you trying to get done?
Well, I think from an overall reconciliation point of view, we still have a lot to do. We still have a lot of opportunities.
Still, 18 months in.
Yes, a lot of opportunities.
Is that something that we're doing, or is that something you're doing?
That's something we're doing.
Okay.
We
Is it
have a
because-
long history and culture that we
Okay,
have to
so it's about
overcome.
change management
Yes.
for the
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and isn't that always the case? It comes back down to people again, right? So how are you managing that change with them?
I think again, having the business process lead, empowering somebody to take ownership for an overall process, rather than having a consensus building approach
Yep.
to some of this is very much where we're trying to drive it. And what we find is the proliferation of SaaS solutions and technology, the level of knowledge sharing that's going on with multinationals at the moment, is absolutely something that's very hard to ignore.
Yeah.
So across the board, if you're in Europe or North America, Latin America, there is shared services conferences. You meet other customers. People are very open in terms of interacting and driving process improvements. So very hard to ignore the shared services journey at the moment.
So next steps with BlackLine?
Definitely matching. We need to look at matching. We have a lot of opportunities we feel in the matching module. Task is something that we will start to look at in terms of driving our overall global calendar
Yes.
and our PBC listings, which everybody loves.
Good.
So, they're 2 significant areas for us. You will see later on in some of my slides, even though we have internal shared services, we don't own all of the finance in the company at the moment. So we still have some of our finance outside of the shared services
So
operation.
it's a mixed model.
Yeah, so but as that changes and moves, some of the other more, what I call mature models,
Yeah.
or mature modules, may actually come into play then.
Okay, excellent. That's excellent. Okay, so they have a session later today at 3 p.m.?
3 p.m.
3,
3 o'clock.
okay.
Yeah.
It's not, okay, good.
No, it's not.
We have some weird times. We have like 3:55 or something, but 3 p.m.
Yep.
And I think it's in this room, right?
It is,
So we
yes.
look forward to that. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.